I'll ask my last question, and then before yours, can you do the ring opener? Because my opener's out there.
No, I've got gold.
Oh, you can't do it.
Yeah, I don't have it. I don't think
we might have to. I might. So I'll ask this question, hear your answer, and then I'm going to get my bottle opener, and we can do it. But so part of the reason of this podcast is kind of discussing and delving into how, whether it's food culture, bar culture, craft cocktail, whatever it is, how it can elevate a city, elevate a region, put a city on the map. Right. How do you feel like that can happen for Tulsa? Like, do you feel like our food scene is progressive enough? Does it need X, Y, or Z? Where do you feel like we are on that journey?
I think we're on that journey. The thing we're missing, this is part of the reason I'm really interested in building a hotel. We're missing tourism, right? And so when you don't have transient dollars coming through and you don't have people going to a place planning on spending a bunch of money on a meal, it really limits what you can do on the top end of a food scene. I think our cocktail culture is really good now, I think. Places like Valkyrie and Hodges and others kind of leading the way and have been doing a really good job for a long time. And now you start to see people that came up through them, going out and branching out and doing other stuff. And so, luckily, I think, through McNellies, we were able to see it, right? Like we had a lot of people come up and work for us who've now built a lot of the other cool shit in town. I mean, we're just the old, stale people now, but at least I take some pride in that. Some of these people that work for me.
We were the incubator.
Those people doing the cool stuff used to work for me. And you've got, Warren and Amelia's and all these places that I think are really doing some great stuff on the food side of things too. Bull in the Alley gets a ton of press. We have a lot of people we know come and visit town to eat there. So, I think the food side of things, like, we're getting to a point, I would say we punch above our weight in some ways, but, the converse of that is that a lot of the best food cities in America are smaller than us, right? Charleston and Portland, Maine. And so, we're good on one end, but on the other side, like, we still need to do better. And I think part of getting better is building a hotel culture that we don't have, that I think if people know they can come stay somewhere cool and then go to all these places, I think that'll be a big deal for trying to get us those tourism dollars that then at some point allow you to build that, 12-course tasting menu restaurant that lands you on a bunch of lists that I just don't think we just don't have enough transient people to do right now. I'm interested to see what happens with Farm Bar. She's, doing it, pushing the envelope, but I have always been concerned, because we've looked at that before. I've been concerned that once, the locals kind of run through once or twice, like, are they going to continue to support something like that? Because the places in bigger cities that are successful with that model, they have constant new people coming, right? So that I'm hopeful, and there's ways to, you can always, put a burger on the menu that everybody can come eat, once a week and be fine, right? But I just wonder. I think we need more people here that are visiting with one-time dollars to I think push it a step.
So real quick, I'll follow up and then I'll run get that bottle opener without, like, taking the tourism side out of it, right? And bringing people in and getting fresh faces, fresh palates in here. Somewhere like Farm Bar or somewhere that's a higher and elevated experience dining wise. How do they get locals to continue to come back? Is it all about creativity? Is that kind of what's missing in a way? Not to slam on anyone that's here, but is it constantly reinventing the menu so that every time they come, it's a different experience, or is it something else?
I probably have a different view of our market than most people do. I think in many ways it is making the food accessible enough that you appeal to a broader swath of the population. So, I just don't, and this is something I argue with some of my fellow restaurateurs about, right? The way we built stuff downtown and the way we tried to develop that neighborhood was we tried to get as many people as we possibly could down there. Like, that was my goal, right? Like, we want mass appeal. We want everybody to be able to identify with it and eat there. And we've now done some things that, the bowl, now the Asian steakhouse deal, and some other things we can narrow. But I think you have to have something that appeals to a lot of Oklahomans, right? And that market's different, right? It's something, and so to me, it's figuring out what that line is between that Farm Bar creative, constantly reinventing, but also making sure that if you're somebody that maybe is our age that likes to travel to New York and eat at, Michelin-starred restaurants.
Yeah. Which I love to do.
That the menu is.
I hope to do that.
Right,
Yeah.
That the menu is. I don't want to say broad enough, but the menu is accessible enough or identifiable enough that maybe you bring your parents or grandparents in there to eat too, right? Like, so to have our great stuff here needs to be good in a way that people who get out and travel a lot recognize it as great, but also needs to be accessible enough that you can take maybe your family members there who don't seek out, maybe you can take your aunt and uncle who just love Branson and take them there and they're blown away too.
Yeah.
Right? And that's really hard to do. Right?
Yeah.
But I think until we get the tourism dollars, I think that's how we have to keep going. And I think there's maybe, if anything, our missed mark in terms of pushing food culture, and you're starting to see this pop up, is maybe some of the Native American foods and embracing some of that, and then trying to figure out more. I think we've got to figure out some more local produce and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you look at like Prairie Creek's doing some great stuff, and there are others. And I think as that network kind of gets built out and we can access more local, then that helps kind of build that as food destination.
I'm going to keep following up because I keep having questions. Yeah. And it's just like this conversation.
Well, I kind of have a statement if you don't
do it.
Mind.
Statement.
Not necessarily a statement, but maybe a follow-up to that is what I've seen within our brewery, going on that question, actually, and kind of backing you up with what you're saying. What I've seen within our brewery is, what's drawing locals back to the tap room or back to restaurants is, one, you have to have that solid, creative, unique flavor to yourself, but that unique flavor also has to have a trust to it because it has to be consistent, and then you can kind of throw some salt on top of it that is new, like we do our brew bacas that are new and kind of wild and weird and very outside of our breath I would say consistently maybe once or twice a month. But everyone comes back and has Going Stag or Kolsch, which are unique within their own vein, but they can trust that it's always going to be there.
Well, and with beers like this and Kolsch, right? If you got a group of 12 people, and the one guy's a Bud Light drinker, like he's going to be happy with the Kolsch, right? And that's great, right? And it used to anger me, right? I used to not want to serve people that shit. Like, no, you need to try this.
Amen.
You need to do this, right? But at some point you realize that, what, man? I don't need to make everybody like the same shit I like. At some point I'm in the hospitality business. I need to make people happy. And so, for us, it's always been Kronenberg or Carlsberg or Pilsner Kell. I'm like, hey, that's great. We love that you like Bud Light. Why don't you drink this Kronenberg? It's a great beer. Like, here's where it's from. Like, we think you'll like it. And they're like, oh, yeah, great. So they tried something new.
Yeah.
They feel good. But, it's a beer I'm proud to serve. It's a good beer, right? It's not outrageous.
Those are fantastic.
Yeah, so,
awesome,
but figuring out that thing where you like, getting somebody something they like, but not having to embarrass them because they don't like a sour or something, right? Like, we only just do sours here. You're going to have to go somewhere else, right? Or whatever it is.
So how much of it is educational? Because I'll tell you a quick story. When I was living in Denver, my dad just happened to be in town during Great American Beer Festival, and it was Meet the Brewer evening, right? And
that's fun.
He's not a beer guy.
We didn't have that this year.
Right. He's not a beer guy. This was back in 2018. Not a beer guy, but he wants to go with me. Father-son moment. Oh, Dad, like let's go to Great American Beer Festival. That fucker. We're in line. We're talking to the head brewer, and I say that lovingly. We're talking to the head brewer of Dogfish Head, right?
Sam Calagione.
Yep. The one and only. And he asked him if he has any Miller Lite or anything like Miller Lite. And I was like, hold on, Dad.
Ouch.
Like, that's not what you're asking. You want a lager or you want a Pilsner? And luckily they were graceful about it. Like, yeah, what you're,
Sam's a nice guy.
What those are this, and this. But it was an educational moment for him. Right. And like for me, I don't say this conceitedly, but the more I hear people talk about food, maybe just in Oklahoma, maybe just in Tulsa, but I feel like I'm a fish out of water because I like being challenged and experiencing things and expanding palates and being like, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to order it because there's only one way to find out if you like it, and that's to try to eat it.
Right.
So I think for a lot of people, how much is all of this conversation also around education?
Yeah.
Right? Teaching them what they don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a ton of it, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it too is menu engineering, right? I mean, like, and like, so, I mean, just like we were talking about Austin Scotch Kolsch, right? It's a great, just like easy drinking beer that anybody can get, and they're not going to be embarrassed that they're in a tap room and there's not something I like, right? And I think that restaurants, even great ones, have to have, like, even if it's a roasted chicken or a burger or whatever, like, you gotta always have something that. So if you're in a restaurant and everything's foie gras and offals and everything,
right,
right, like that. Somebody with you about, I'll just get the roast chicken, right? And to have it be great and done with care and done in a way and like,
not just a throw in, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's education, but some of it's engineering and saying, if we're going to really push the envelope in all these ways, we're also going to make sure that we bring other people along with us, right? Yeah. And so I think that's important. And it's important for us as we have more chefs push the boundaries here, that they don't leave certain people behind. Because I think when they do, they're going to narrow the amount of people that go into those restaurants. And our population's not growing rapidly enough to support a bunch of new outrageous stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and I think some of the most memorable meals for myself are some of those like roasted chicken. And they kind of hit home, and they could be unique within their own style of being made, whether it was like a certain salt used or pepper or anything like that. I love trying all sorts of new stuff, and I've been to a lot of different places and tried weird things. But your memories. You as humans, we love to eat something that is
right?
nostalgic.
Yeah, I was in I was at City Grocery the other night in Oxford, Mississippi. And that's what I ate. I ate the roasted chicken. I talked to the server and stuff. She's like, so honestly, the chef thinks the best thing on the menu is the roasted chicken. I'm like, all right, give me that.
Yes,
fucking incredible.
right.
And it was like I had a Mexican spice rub on it, and then these very like thinly sliced mandolin jalapenos, and like this like sour cream little like dollops that had some cilantro infused, and like so it ate like a really elevated like fajita almost. And it was like done on this bed of beans. It was incredible.
That sounds awesome.
That does sound, I'm really hungry. That sounds great. Yeah.
And as just to give a point of reference, like as a brewer, I've been to quite a lot of different really cool breweries, but if a brewery, it doesn't matter who it is, where I am, if they have a Helles or a Kolsch or a Pilsner, that will be my first beer that I order. Yeah. Because
it's how I judge breweries, actually. Yeah.
That doesn't make me sound a little bit judgmental, but
that's how I judge breweries.
I feel like, it's kind of like a litmus test or something. It gives me a barometer of where that brewer is and can really tell me a lot of their personality within those styles.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same. To me, you always judge a Tex-Mex restaurant based on their cheese enchilada, right? Just get a cheese enchilada.
100%.
It's funny. It was McKellar. I feel like Chase corrected me once when I said it in some of these.
We'll have to ask him next week when he's on the right way to say it.
Yeah, ask him. Yeah.
It's McKellar.
So I think I said McKellar, so McKellar. I was like,
anyway. Well, now I'm second guessing myself.
Let me know. But there was an interview I read with him once. He was just talking, like, what beer is it like that you most admire? I think he said Pilsner Kelly. Like, honestly, man, to make that beer like that consistent, that quality, like, it's impossible. It's like what I do, like, I can mash tons of shit because I put all these hops in there and all this stuff. It's like, but to make that beer is really hard. He's like, so if you see a really good Pilsner somewhere, like, somebody really knows what they're doing, right? There's nothing to hide.
This is going to be an editing masterpiece. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be right back with a bottle opener.
Sounds good.
All right.
Welcome back to the tasting room. We're going to drink one last drink here. We're having a beer.
I don't know why I brought
that's
4 cups.
Actually not even released yet at the brewery. This is my head brewer's Scotch ale.
Ooh.
That was aged in bourbon barrels for, I think, about 4 months.
I like it.
So we're going to release this beer here, I think, within the month.
Oh, thanks.
Within the month. So it's really fun. Really, really cool beer. I'm very proud of him. This is actually his first recipe that he has written at the brewery, and the first of his career, because he's
Thanks, bud.
This is his first job in the brewery world, which is really cool. He's very smart, really hard worker, and excelling extremely fast in this industry. That's really tough to learn. There's so much information going into brewing. It's ridiculous. We ask each other all the time what we should improve on, where our knowledge is lacking. So he's a really impressive guy. His name's David McLean, and just a really smart guy, really fun to work with. I feel honored to be able to work with him because he makes myself excel in this world, and he makes
cheers to David.
Really good beers. So cheers to David. I'm excited to hear what you guys think about that. You're the first public people to drink this beer, so give David your opinions.
Oh, that's delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get that bourbon barrel for sure.
Yeah, it's like living in that barrel, but really in a soft way.
Yeah.
It doesn't overpower it. A lot of times bourbon barrel beers get kind of overpowering, right? Like, you still really taste the sweetness from that malt and the Scotch ale.
Yeah.
I want everyone to be able to hear your last answer. Be sure you're up here a little bit for Austin's last question, which I'm sure is a Pulitzer Prize winning question.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
No pressure. No pressure.
No. It's great because it goes back to our conversation earlier, back to why Tulsa. But what do you think, and what should people be excited about for Tulsa? And the question is, why is Tulsa so cool?
Fuck, is it?
I think it is.
No,
but what should we be excited about? Because I get the question. To me, man, Tulsa seems like it's growing so fast, and a really cool music scene, food scene, beer scene, whatever, bourbon scene or whiskey scene. What do you think that people should be excited about?
I'm going to give you a really boring answer first. The thing that people should be most excited about that no one is that VA hospital downtown.
I thought you were going to say Elliot as mayor.
You know what you're excited about that?
Yeah.
So
that's a good answer, though.
So what's interesting, the VA hospital is moving down there, but we're also tying a mental health hospital to it, which Oklahoma is desperately lacking. Mm-hmm. But even more important than that, they're working on quadrupling the number of medical residents at the OSU hospital with those two additions. So the number I heard is they're going to go from 75 residents to 300. And then you have a corresponding number of new nursing jobs and other things. So I think you're going to see a bunch of jobs out of downtown for mid to late 20s people who are high earners and potentially high earners long term. And so I think that that has a way of sending a ripple effect back through town. So that's actually one of the things I'm most excited about. We need economic developments that are job growth that have long-term lasting effect. And that, interestingly enough, has a way to really change some stuff in the city, especially by cranking out a bunch more doctors, which Oklahoma desperately needs, especially not just in Tulsa, but in the rural areas especially. So that's a big one. Tulsa Remote is continuing to add more and more people. I think that their goal is, I'm trying to remember, I talked to them the other day. I want to say that they're trying within 3 years to get up 1,000 people a year.
Holy smokes.
Right. So that's crazy. Right. So that's something that's exciting. There's a lot of economic development activity with the city that's ongoing that I think, auto manufacturing stuff, other things that potentially have a lot of long-term lasting impacts. You see that around the state of Oklahoma, there's some weird demographic trends. And Tulsa in particular has we're a net exporter of talent. So, college educated people who live in Tulsa by and large leave. And population wise, we are replacing them with people from rural Oklahoma who have high school diplomas. And so something that Tulsa Remote is doing is repopulating with people with bachelor's degrees, which is a big thing for us from an economic standpoint. But I think even more exciting for me is some of these long-term economic development opportunities that the city's pursuing are going to be really great jobs for those people who are moving from rural Oklahoma who have high school diplomas. So, I mean, you look at, someone at American Airlines who's maybe one of the mechanics. I mean, those are 6-figure jobs, right? Great jobs you can retire with and raise a family on. And so we have a couple of prospects in the pipeline as a city that will add even more jobs of that caliber, which I think for the state of Oklahoma and the net migration patterns we're seeing will be a really big deal. So, so I think, Tulsa, more than Oklahoma City, we have a lot of manufacturing jobs that they don't have. And so to build on the manufacturing base and add more to it will be a big deal for us long term. So I'm excited about some of those opportunities. And I'm also really excited about the infill of downtown. I mean, we've built some splashy projects over the last few years. Pop Museum's about to be done. Obviously the ballpark and the arena and all those things. But we are now starting to infill with a lot of multifamily housing and just to get the density level up to where it needs to be. And I think what's going to happen, a lot of people won't anticipate, is in the next 5 to 10 years, most of those empty city blocks will be filled in with housing and more offices. And so that density and the amount of people downtown, especially on a kind of 24/7 basis, is going to probably triple over the next 10 years. And when that happens, it's going to be a huge deal. And it will be palpable. You'll feel it on the street. You'll feel it in the restaurants and bars. Yeah, thanks. So I think there's a lot of things to look forward to. We still have some issues. I mean, we need to figure out a 4-year public university. We got to figure that out. We need a residential university here. We're the largest city in the country that doesn't have one.
Whoa, I didn't know that statistic.
Yeah, and it's a problem, right? And so we have issues, things we need to tackle, right? And our public education is a huge issue. That's a state issue more than city, but so it's not all rainbows, but I think there's I think there's some stuff to look forward to. And I think that for me, the things that I see going on, the investments that are being made, I think there's a rising tide lifts all ships. And I think there's a really good future. I mean, we're sitting right now at effectively third Utica, right? But I think, this whole neighborhood
should be a dust bowl.
Right? Yeah. And I think this neighborhood will fill in all the way back to downtown. I think in the next 15 years, you're going to see all this stuff developed into new Class A stuff, and that's going to be really cool.
It's becoming, I know it's called Studio Row, but by God, it's going to be Barbecue Row before you know it. We have High Dive next door. Oak Heart is really good. Leon's is moving into where Swamp House was. They're opening up another location there.
Who is?
Leon's Barbecue from up North Tulsa. Okay. So it's in the small little, almost like house in North Tulsa, and Leon is fantastic. And it just fits with the church studio, Leon Russell, Leon's Barbecue. Like it's just a match made in heaven. But it's, between that and I think there's a fourth barbecue place coming in somewhere a little in between here and downtown, another Texas barbecue style place. So
and I've heard
1907's right.
Yeah, 1907.
I've heard 1907's good. I've heard the one that's out in front of Heirloom's really good too.
Killer Whale.
Killer Whale.
I don't like barbecue that much, sadly.
As you can tell, I do. I know most of the names.
That's a sad life to live.
That's the sodium, right? I'm just like,
that is very true. Yeah.
When you're trying to consume this much beer most of the time, you gotta make some trade-offs.
It's a give and take somewhere, right? So if I was going to pick a word to describe this conversation, it would be growth in general. Like just topic. It seems like that's what we keep hitting on. So we'll let you leave on this. I want your opinion. Do cities have ceilings when it comes to growth, or is it glass ceilings that can be broken through? Like whatever that ceiling is, depending on what the city is.
There's no ceiling.
Okay.
I mean, Austin was the same size we were 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so, it just takes a few things breaking the right way. The same with Oklahoma City, too. I mean, growing up, Oklahoma City's a shithole. And the mayor down there is one of my best friends. And he and I, in high school, had this rivalry, and now it's great, right? They just had some things break the right way. They had the right, they had the right private sector leaders at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Tulsa is poised to keep growing. And this is interesting. A lot of people, you get in these meetings downtown. Well, we don't want it to grow. We don't want, the traffic, there's no traffic. Man, as soon as I'm sitting in a meeting and people are bitching about how bad the traffic is and that, the cost of a single family home is too expensive, that's when we're like, oh, okay. So we finally did it, right?
Yeah.
I have a different metrics and everything, but no, I think that I don't think there's a limit. I think that the city of Tulsa, I think city proper, like last census where we were like 420,000 people, something like that. I can't remember. Yeah. I don't see us getting much past that. Maybe we get up close to 500,000 people, but I think the goal for the Tulsa should be, we need to be the absolute best city under 500,000 people in the country. And our MSAs right at 1 million, maybe, in the smaller MSAs but I think we need to pick our competitive set, and we need to really kind of set eyes on who we need to be and where we need to be, and, maintain quality of life and some of the things that we all appreciate about how easy it is to live here. But then touching back on some of the earlier points in the conversation, making sure that, we have the best possible food and beer scene and everything else we get. And I think, honestly, I think we already do, right? I mean, I think there's some things here that we're all really proud of, right? I mean, and so maintaining those and growing them, and, I think we're still kind of a hidden gem. As people discover that, I think it's just going to continue to get better.
Well, man,
It's really cool.
I could keep having this conversation. I have so many questions that just come to my mind, but you have 82 businesses to run.
I'd much rather be here in this room. Nobody can find me. My phone's off. I'm drinking beer. This is great. I don't think you guys want to say.
We have a few ounces left.
We do. Well, Elliot, cheers, man. Thanks for coming in.
I
appreciate you doing this. And we'll take a quick.
Hey, wait, hold on. Before we leave, tell me more about that whiskey. We need to get a plug for these whiskey guys. I mean,
I know.
It's effectively cast strength. It'll light you up.
It is definitely that. So
it has some rye in it. What was that?
It's a little bit rosy.
I was going to say, did it have rye in it? What's the?
I don't think this one's rye.
Bill?
This is just. I don't know the rye bill, or the mash bill. Sorry, it's a barrel strength straight bourbon whiskey.
Okay.
They call it Reverence out of Red Fork Distillery, but the group I'm in is called Spirits of Legend, and it's just a bunch of dudes that like drinking bourbon and ladies, people that like drinking bourbon. So this one was barrel 001. It was selected on March 23rd. So it's, 58% alcohol by volume, 116 proof. We're drinking bottle number 82. So it's, Red Fork Distillery is just on the west side of Tulsa.
It gets
so
it's
it's, it'll get you where you're going for sure.
That's right.
So it's crafted in Oklahoma. And I know they had a deal to be called, I believe, bourbon whiskey, it has to be from a certain region.
No.
Does it not?
It has to be from the United States.
That's what it, okay.
It has to
That's
be
what it was.
At least 50% plus 50.1% corn in the
That's
mash.
right. It wasn't a region. It was the mash
bill. It has to go in a fresh American oak barrel. So those are your three things. American,
there you go.
Mostly corn mash, and fresh oak barrel.
And then on the back, I don't know if we can see this, but there's...
Oak has a lot of cherry to it. That's what I was getting out of it.
Yeah.
And then it has that really... So bourbon, the reason that a lot of people like bourbon is because it's almost thinner on the tongue, and has a little bit of fire on your throat, and that's because of the corn. It's kind of like drinking a pilsner of whiskeys.
Yeah,
which is really fun and really great.
Pilsner of whiskey is the Irish stuff. I mean, you can almost,
that's true too.
You can almost chug like water.
Well, Jameson,
I mean. Not the,
So, anyway,
I just wanted to get. People go to your bar and drink Jameson all the time. Come on,
I should try the Green Spot. Green Spot's great. Black Bush is usually my go-to Irish whiskey. Venture out a little bit.
I agree with that. I just wanted to get that reaction from Jameson. All right, appreciate you coming in.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
We'll take a break. We'll be right back on the other side. And that is Sir Elliot Nelson. That was a fantastic, like I said before we wrapped it up, I kept thinking of questions because when it comes to just people who get the business side of things and directions of a city, it just all sorts of stuff. I just had so many things we could have kept talking about, but that was over an hour. And so I was like, okay, we got to let him go.
Yeah. That conversation probably could have gone on for 3 hours. I
said it with Colin. I now see how Joe Rogan can go 3.5 hours with guests. Because if you're engaged and interested in the subject matter, it's just, it flows.
Yeah. In the instance of just sitting here, you kind of forget that we're recording a podcast for people to listen to, where you're having a conversation and you're inquisitive and you just want to keep going.
Those are the best kind of podcasts, though, where you forget as the host and it's just a conversation, right? I love that. That's what I like to listen to.
Yeah, that was really, really cool. Really cool to hear his perspective of where he's come from.
Yep.
and where he thinks Tulsa is going and what he's, the last question, he kind of went on a tangent of, outside of where our podcast really focuses on, but really
talking about the VA hospital,
the VA hospital. But that's what he thinks is going to help Tulsa grow and really expand what we all are really passionate about within our own scope of creating liquid or food or whatever it may be.
I've got one thing to wrap it up.
Right on.
Elliot for mayor 2024.
I'll vote.
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go.
You want to tell people who we have on next on the podcast?
So coming up next will be Trevor Tack.
The man.
Yeah. He's helped a lot of different restaurants start. He's written thousands of recipes for a lot of different plates of food.
And he's about to open the Hemingway steakhouse underneath that new building on Cherry Street where Sidecar's at the top.
Yep.
And then there's 3 floors of apartments, or I think they're apartments. I don't know if they're called condos. I don't know what they call them. But 3 floors of living. And then you have was it Cycle Bar and some things on the ground floor, and then Hemingway's in the basement.
Right. Yeah. You know more than me. I know about this.
There you go. Yeah. Let me enlighten you, sir.
That's within the Kilkenny's group. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's also in a fantasy football league I'm in, so there will be some shit talking.
Right on.
I am sure.
I'm excited for that.
Yes, it'll be fun.
I'm going to be lost in the weeds because I don't do fantasy football things.
You can just bring good beer and we'll be all right.
Yeah, it'll be all right.
Cheers, guys. We'll see you next time. I almost said next week. I don't know if it'll be a week. It might be less than a week. It might be a week and a half. You'll just have to stay tuned.
Right on.
See you on the next tasting room. Cheers.
Thank you, guys.